Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. See the blazing Yule before us, fa la 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus, fa la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure, fa la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide treasure, fa la 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 la. Fast away the old year passes, la 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 la. Hail the new year, lads and lasses, la 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 la. Sing rejoice all together, fa la 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 la. Heedless of the wind and weather, fa la 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 la.
Hey, can you hear me now? Hello guys, how are you doing? We got a little bit of Christmas music here on. That's what I was saying when you couldn't hear me. In full disclosure, I've been having a really rough week. I am exhausted. I'm emotionally spent. I am running on fumes. But one thing that cheers me up is spending time with my friend Kevin on the happy hour. I know, I am lagged, you guys. My sound is on now. So Friday I did a show with Kevin. He basically dragged me out of my woman cave, saying, let's do a show. That helped a lot. But if I'm a little less energetic than normal, that is why. And so as a consequence, I've actually spent the morning. I have a big event. You guys don't really care so much about this, but I sound like you sound like I do. Am I sick as well? I hope not. I was a little bit on the coffee side, although to be honest, whenever I drink my morning coffee, I end up getting a runny nose and cough anyway. But I hope I'm not sick because this week, Wednesday and Thursday, I have a massive project where, I'll tell you, we're putting on this conference. And everyone decided they wanted videos about their topic or their tools, which I've spent the last, since September, organizing, planning, storyboarding, building set construction work, rehearsals with the talent, media training, recording, doing the audio, planning. Anyway, I've got basically 3 videos left out of the like 7 in total, but they're all ones that I have to do. And I got up this morning and I wrote a script, and I got up yesterday and I wrote another script. And then when I'm done with this show, I'm actually going to I'm going to do voice work and read out an exciting script about data catalogs. So that might just also be part of the reason why I'm really burning out, is because it's constant. Like I've been working on the last couple Saturdays because I can't focus for like 10 hours straight on videos. It just doesn't work. So I've been trying to pace myself by working weekends. But I think working weekend after weekend after weekend is I don't get a proper rest. And it's not going to stop anytime soon, because as soon as the event ends on Thursday, I've got a bag packed and I'm flying to the UK and I'm doing field research, sleeping on people's couches and floors and traveling all over the UK. So, yeah, it's going to be a rough couple of weeks. Oh, and then speaking of which, I need some rum in my coffee. God damn, that's right, I do. That would be a great idea. Thank you so much, Rosso. Thanks for the good wishes on the project. It's all going to get done on time. There's nothing that needs to get done that I can't do. It's just a matter of like sitting down and doing it solid for the next 3 days, and then it'll be done. And then I'll start the next thing, and then something else will land on me. It's life, you know? Life is a to-do list that never ends. Until it does. Yes, I know, and overworking and the stress as well. It's also the stress of deadlines and also the stress of I am constantly told by people higher up the chain, I hold myself to too high a standard. I always do more than what they have in mind. I always have a higher quality that I'm aiming for than they think is necessary. If I come to Lancashire, I will give you a shout, Mithril. Contact me. Are you on Twitter? I'm sure you are. So contact me in the DMs. I think I'm going to be doing Colchester, Birmingham, Bristol, Cardiff, possibly, and then up to Dundee and Edinburgh. And then I have to fly out of Edinburgh to give a 2-day workshop on how to storyboard for educational videos in Vienna. And then I turn around and I come back and I do more field research until the election. And then I do post-election and field research. And then it's the 18th of the month. And then I have 7 more videos to finish by the 31st of December. So if I die before the 1st of January, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get on air and just moan. Normally I don't talk about these things, and I for a reason. It's because I just spend your time complaining about my life, which I shouldn't, so I'm going to shut up now. So for today's show, we have a couple stories I want to get through. I was somebody was complaining that PU videos were boring, and so I'm trying to get some intellectual stuff in on the first part of the show, and so those people can get their intellectual stuff, and then if they don't want PragerU, or if we even get to PragerU, they can. All right, wrapping up. Oh my gosh, there was just all kinds of stuff that happened even since Friday night, which is ridiculous. And that was discussed a little bit in the deadlines are stressful. I'm allowed to vent. Thank you guys. Don't become a reliable source of support for me, or it's just going to become Christy's therapy hour. Poor Kevin accidentally got dragged into that on Friday. Yeah, so the news just never stops. It never stops with impeachment. It's just like, I mean, I'm glad for it. I'm glad that the process that was begun and actually I don't even know my headphones at this point. I don't even know why I'm wearing them, other than they're awesome and they're comfortable and they're quiet. But it's just like I don't even know how to, it's like an oil gush, it's like a geyser of just corruption. Now that the whistleblower provided Congress with the tip to look over here for bad stuff that's going on, it's like exploding, the full extent of the tentacles of corruption, and where they reach into the highest levels of Republican leadership is, I mean, good. I'm really glad for it. On the other hand, it's also the case that there's so much corruption that it could become a distraction. And I've seen this, I want to call it a false equivalence. And there's a lot, and I understand that people in the media need stuff to talk about when they get on television. But I'm getting irritated. I get really irritated where I know journalists ask super obvious questions, or they frame things in an, I think, a really terrible way. One example of that is the way that, oh, you guys can't see my screen. I've actually had to reuse the happy hour screen a little bit because I realized, oh no, wrong one. There we go. There, now you can see it. Oh, look at me by Devin Nunes. And I punch him in the, no, that's violent. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, focus gone, lack of concentration, inability to maintain a singular thought while being interrupted. Raise your hand. Yes, all right, the false equivalence. Journalists will go, oh, but, there's the Democrats. Okay, they criticize the Democrats forever for not getting going on the impeachment hearings, and saying, oh, you shouldn't let public opinion. Sorry, I just noticed there's dust on my laptop, so I have to dust it off now. You guys get to watch me clean it on broadcast. So they would go like, oh, the Democrats, they should really do what's right. It doesn't matter if it's popular. They should just, put on the impeachment hearings. And now they've got on the impeachment hearings, which lasted, there was 2 weeks of testimony. 2 weeks of testimony. That was it. And they've managed to get 12 people in 2 weeks. They've presented basically all the evidence from the confession of Trump, the transcripts, the memorandum of call notes or whatever it was, Mick Mulvaney's confession, all the other things they've collected. And yes, now they're finding out there are more leads that could be followed, but they have enough to demonstrate beyond a shadow of the doubt, the president committed high crimes and misdemeanors. And now they're saying, oh, well, maybe they shouldn't, be so quick on this impeachment hearing. Maybe they should take their time and explore these issues. And I'm just like, why are you so idiotic? Why are the journalists in America so bad at framing things in a way that isn't aimed at fourth graders? Here's the fact. The Democrats can both pursue the articles of impeachment process that they've already started in terms of sending what they have over to the Judiciary Committees, doing a report, recommending articles, and sending it over to Nadler's committee and letting him get on with his stuff, and following up on other areas that require oversight. It's not an either or. It's not like we have to put off impeachment until next April in order to get the full story, or we have to vote on these articles and nothing else. The fact is that we're going to look at it. The House Democrats have already said, put in a letter for an ethics probe of Nunes, and they should. And this, I mean, he should be stripped of his committee chairmanship. He should be called as a witness by Jerry Nadler in the impeachment, in the House Judiciary Committee, and he should certainly be called by the prosecuting side of the House Representatives when it comes to the Senate trial. And Ron Johnson should be called. These guys are not, they're actually actively participating in this conspiracy. I have to go one thing at a time because there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. All right. Let's look at the summary. And okay, so I'm gonna look at Fox of Fate here. I'm gonna engage with you guys in the chat a little bit. More investigations are needed. Pompeo, Mulvaney. I agree. I think Barr needs to be investigated because he was. Oh, we didn't even talk about the fact that their big old report was a complete failure. I don't even need my headphones. They're getting in the way of me typing, so I'm going to put them aside for right now. Yeah, that's an thank you. Who was that? Kay. Thank you, Kay, for reminding me of that. Because Inspector General, was it? Inspector General report. FBI mistakes. All right. Oh, that's horrible. I hate spelling live on air. It's just so embarrassing. All right. Yes, we're gonna look at this too. Who should we look at? I actually trust. Yeah, that's a pretty. Honestly, it's a clickbaity headline because it's not the case. I mean, that is one finding, but the overall finding was something else. Oh, here you go. Holiday Tunes Wave. You guys can see the music I made for you. Found that, and yeah, just a quick little shout out. I really liked the jazz. I like jazzy Christmas. I do. I'm very much a middle-aged woman in that way, maybe, but I don't mind old school Christmassy stuff either. But in terms of like background music, I do like the kind of jazz one, and we put it on there because it was really nice. Actually, let me quickly just see who it was. Like it's called Easy. What is it? I don't remember the name of the band, but it's you don't actually have to do attribution. It's from the YouTube collection, I think, but I did because they were awesome. Anyway, a lack of concentration is one of the signs that I am mentally spent. So if it's like if it feels a little ADD with Christy this morning, just put it down to all my stress. Yeah, so the Inspector General came out, this whole report that was going to prove that there was this deep state conspiracy. I mean, most of us haven't heard of this because it was a pretty low-key investigation being done by somebody I'd never heard of and was hardly ever covered in media. The only reason I knew about this report going on was when William Barr was flying around the world trying to get our allies to dig up dirt on our own intelligence services. And apparently that failed because that didn't show up in this report. All right. So where do we start? Okay. We were going to talk a little bit about Nunes and his ethics issues, and we're going to talk about the threat that the GOP pose to constitutional rule of law in America these days, and what does that mean for us going forward? But let's start first with the big old flop. Now, a couple days ago, Republicans were breathlessly predicting that there would be an amazing amount of news coming out of this story here about the Inspector General report into the Russia investigation itself. So let's go ahead and we're going to just borrow some writing from Fox here and see what they have to say. The Department of Justice watchdog is expected to release the long-awaited review of the FBI investigation into the Trump campaign next month. And now the public has a little preview of what might be inside and just how contentious the report might end up being. CNN reported on Thursday night, and the Washington Post and the New York Times later confirmed, that Inspector General Michael Horowitz has found that a former FBI lawyer might have altered a document tied to the 2016 Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act application for former Trump campaign aide Carter Page. Critically, or crucially, as my PhD supervisor would like to, that was his word, crucially this, crucially that, but here. Critically, according to U.S. officials who spoke to the Post, the Inspector General did not find that this possible alteration affected, quote, the overall validity, unquote, or legal basis for the wiretap application. Without seeing the report, which finally has a due date of the 9th of December, it's hard to gauge exactly how significant this alleged alteration is. But Horowitz has reportedly referred this evidence to John Durham, the prosecutor appointed by Attorney General William Barr, to separately review the 2016 Russian investigation. Durham's inquiry has since expanded to become a criminal probe. The New York Times also reported that overall, Horowitz criticized the FBI's handling of the application and the renewals for Page, suggesting incidents of sloppiness or negligence. But Horowitz is expected to debunk the allegation of a broader conspiracy against President Donald Trump, teeing up a situation where people on both ends of the political spectrum can claim victory. So, of course, they're going to claim Trump and his people are trying to establish that there was this horrible conspiracy theory that covered up this deep state thing. And basically what you're going to find is, examples of where people made mistakes, sometimes deliberate, sometimes, CYA mistakes that need to be addressed and reprimanded and corrected in future and learned from. But there was nothing in terms of those errors that were either so crucially flawed as to be a false basis for a FISA warrant, nor was it part of a overall conspiracy of multiple people in order to be anti-Trump. So they wasted more time and effort looking for ways to exonerate Putin and his puppet Trump in the 2016 election, by trying to tarnish Americans. Trump is, siding with Russians over Americans and trying to use the power of the federal government to go after domestic political opponents or even the intelligence agencies because they had findings that he didn't like. And he is instead preferring to listen to people like pro-Putin, pro-Russian Ukrainians who are trying to convince him, through Rudy Giuliani, that it was really Ukraine who was in league with the Democrats to hack themselves and release their own emails in an elaborate way to, fool Julian Assange to give the information to Roger Stone to give it to Trump. And so these are the kinds of fascist tactics. These are the sort of anti-constitutional, anti-American. Now, the anti-American, I don't necessarily, it's such a loaded term. But for me, what is clear is that the Republicans are trying to undermine the constitutional rule of law. They want the veneer of democratic legitimacy from elections that are rigged. And they want the veneer of a democratic process by taking over institutions that have, in theory, checks and balances that should work to protect against that sort of thing. But that assumes that people are first loyal to our country and our Constitution and not to an individual man. And that's where the founders got today's GOP wrong. Sip of coffee, everyone. I guess the report leads nicely into this. Now, Trump's GOP support hardens despite damning impeachment testimony. What we know is that these people are loyal to power and the man in the White House. They are loyal to their oaths of office or the Constitution. I don't think there's just no way look at Lindsey Graham, a person who says he refuses to look at evidence provided by civil servant experts who have no political agenda, and yet he is going to throw that away in favor of a man who has admitted to committing the crime of bribery using an official White House visit and congressionally authorized funds to leverage information on his political opponent. And if the Republicans say, that yes, it was wrong, but it's not impeachable, then what they are doing is giving the power of any president going forward to invite any country into our elections, and I don't know how you can call that anything other than a direct attack on our democracy. You are inviting every country who has money, because let's face it, our greatest weakness as Americans in our electoral system is the corrupt influence of money. And if countries can now offer presidents, whether or not it's true, investigations into their political opponents, just announcing that there's an investigation into one of their political opponents in their country, then that's all it needs. I mean, let's say Trump, because he's so unpopular, the Senate Republicans vote that bribing foreign officials is not an impeachable offense. And Trump loses because he is a terrible candidate, and he has actually alienated enough people that gets him out of power, and a Democrat becomes president. With that precedent, there is no basis to criticize a Democratic president for immediately starting files on all of their potential GOP rivals and making it part of U.S. foreign policy to collect information and dirt on those people. And use and sell ourselves out to, for the Chinese government to, if they visit the country, to spy on political opponents, or the Russians, or Brazilians, or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. There's no loyalty to America. There's only loyalty to power. And that's how we die as a democracy. I don't know how you can claim to be an American and say what Trump did isn't wrong. And what it shows to me is that there is still actually a big monarchist streak. There is an authoritarian streak. There is an anti-freedom. There is a white supremacist culture that has tried to use the Constitution to cover up as a gloss. But fundamentally, it's about destroying, we're actually getting to the point. So if you think about it, or when I think about it, the United States was made for white men. Power was only given to white men. And yet it was built on these lofty principles of, inclusive, like the idea that at least the possibility that, all men are created equal. Of course, you're immediately saying women are unequal implicitly, but you say everyone is created equal. Well, by that reasoning, everyone should have a say in the government. Everyone should have the same rights. Everyone should have access to the same federal services, the same federal protections, the same federal social safety nets. And yet, there's been this push-pull of people who want to protect white, Christian, evangelical especially, cis men's supremacy in politics, in government, in the religious organizations, in commerce, in social life and culture. And we've had, for centuries, these attempts to widen out who gets to be covered by these rights. For a while, it was white women who got into the club, at least legally. And then that expanded out to other African-American citizens. I guess, in theory, it was the constitutional amendments that gave people, Black Americans, their initial rights. But of course, then the white supremacists came and stripped them, all of them, in practice. So it was meaningless. And we are to a point where, again, we have movements of liberation going for decades. We see the rise. You look at the Democratic Party in terms of its inclusiveness and its having more candidates that actually look like America. And the Republicans can't handle that. They won't accept the idea that we can hold a white rich man accountable for his actions. Trump is going to be, if the GOP side with Trump, I don't know how we continue to be a country. I don't know how we continue to be a democracy. Because even if he loses in his re-election bid, that precedent is set. That precedent is not just set for Donald Trump in the 2020 election. That is Republicans saying the president is above the law. So that's depressing. This is what we have to fight. And obviously this isn't a fight we can only have at the ballot box. There is a large section of white America that is the problem here. White America is causing this problem. This isn't a problem you can find in the Black community or the Hispanic community or in the Asian community, no. This betrayal of principles in order for political expediency, this is a white man problem. This is a white woman problem. This is a Christian problem in America. And also I should say as well, when you see, last time I looked, who are independent voters? So you might have seen some polls. I can't spell. That some independents are swinging back toward Trump. And one thing I know, there's some common themes that you'll find about independent voters. So I don't want you to think that independent voters, the distribution is somehow balanced in the population. So my knowledge historically is that women are more likely to identify as members of the Democratic Party than either as Republicans or independents. And men often identify themselves as independents when they're really Republicans. So you get guys who want to say, oh yeah, I'm an independent person. I vote for the person, not the party. I don't belong to anything. But then they just go down the line and are like, guns and everything else. So independents aren't a true independent. They're not neutral. They're not without political leanings. And I'll just go through here. The real reason Republicans lost 40 House seats, they lost independent suburban men. Men moved more against Republicans. Little difference exists between how they voted. Among independents, significant differences exist between men and women, with women likelier to support Democrats in all three elections. That political scientist, hello. What matters, though, is how much each group has shifted since 2014 when Republicans won the House. In 2014, independent men gave Republicans a 19-point advantage, while independent women gave the GOP only a 4-point edge. That yields a 15-point difference, a gender gap among independent voters. Last year, independent men voted for Democrats by a 7-point margin, while Democrats carried independent women by 17 points. And then it goes on and on and on. So these data are consistent with yada, yada, yada. And then what the 2016 exit poll showed, independent men gave Republicans and Trump an identical 12-point margin, while independent women voted for Democrats in the House by 1 point and Clinton by 5. Independent men are why Trump is president, and their switch in the election is why Republicans lost so many seats. Now, one could say, make an argument for women voters as well, and I'm not here to so much have that debate right now. But what I want to say is that when you see, independents are swinging, there's been a swing in independent support for impeachment, just kind of read that as disproportionately white Republican-leading men who don't want to admit they have a party affiliation, because that's generally what they are. It's not entirely, but it is. It tends to be the case. So what do we got here? After 2 weeks of extraordinary open hearings at from the Washington Post, Democrats envisioned as their best opportunity to shape public opinion on impeachment. Honestly, Democrats understand that 40% or 45% of Americans who back Trump will never switch to their position. Again, this is like a false, Democrats think that somehow moderate Republicans are going to come over to them. No. I think we want to make the case for people who are open-minded, people who are interested in the facts and the evidence and who care about the Constitution over party. But this expectation that somehow public opinion was ever going to switch to 2/3 in favor of impeachment is just, it's not true. It's just not true. This phase of the inquiry was particularly damning for Trump, simply because the fact pattern that emerged, a series of government witnesses testifying under oath and at a risk of perjury, implicated the president in a scheme to pressure the Ukrainians to influence the 2020 election. But impeachment is not a criminal or legal proceeding, it is a political one. And as the inquiry hurls towards a likely House vote on impeachment next month in a possible Senate trial, Republicans on Capitol Hill are solidly behind the president, even if they offer scattershot and at times contradictory defenses of his alleged wrongdoings. So, we're going to see what happens with a little bit with the public polling once this impeachment, all of that stuff sort of seeps in. I'd like to see some polling data from next week. But the fact is that the facts are out there now, and whether or not the Senate Republicans have the courage to do what's right to defend the Constitution and our rights and their own powers as the Senate and to act as a check. If they fail, then that will be up to history to judge. But just because, in my opinion, I've had this opinion for a while, it doesn't mean you shouldn't impeach him. It doesn't mean you shouldn't go ahead with these investigations. The Congress needs to do its oversight for historical purposes and because it forces the issue. But we shouldn't lament the idea that we shouldn't not do the investigations because the Senate Republicans might not convict. I think history needs the facts, and we need the facts as well. And the other thing that we also haven't not talked about at all is the fact that there's going to be a big ad campaign. Once this stuff hits the Senate, don't be surprised. I mean, I think Trump's already, I don't know if it mentioned that in that article, but he's already buying ads attacking the impeachment process. And once there's a conviction, and I think you're going to see Republicans in certain states who are up for re-election and who are vulnerable, maybe even ones who aren't so vulnerable, being attacked with advertisement from people who support impeachment. Like, isn't that Tom Steyer has been doing this for ages? And you might actually start to get more political groups targeting, Susan Collins to vote for impeachment, targeting Mitt Romney, targeting who knows who else. So I don't think that we should make decisions about, impeachment now until after the articles and it's in the Senate, because then again, there's going to be a massive campaign. All right, why don't I take a little peek at what we've got here in the chat? I saw the GOAT was talking about impeaching Clinton. Well, technically they impeached Clinton for perjuring himself over oral sex. And at the time they thought that, yes, impeaching, it was a good use of taxpayer money to impeach the president for lying about a personal affair and trying to use that to get him out of the his position. But actually committing bribery, they're fine with. Absolutely fine with. I'm looking at what you guys are saying in the chat just to see. That's what the silence is. And despite the Senate blocking the impeachment, it must go ahead. Nothing to do with... Yeah, I think there is a rule that there has to be a trial of some sort. Like, I think it says something like the Senate has the sole power to try impeachments, and that's been implied, like they have to do something. We will see. I mean, they're talking about... this is the other thing. I know the GOP in the Senate really want to mess with the process, but I'm under the impression that the House Republicans' shenanigans did not go over well in focus groups, which is why they stopped doing them after the first week. And instead, we're trying to be disruptive, less disruptive, but doing it in other ways. And if the Senate tries to turn this into, calling Hunter Biden, I think they have to be careful of what they wish for. Because if I were Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, and they wasted an impeachment hearing to call me up to testify about crimes I didn't commit, and there's no evidence for that, I would take every opportunity to recite lines that would be of use in campaign ads for whatever Democratic nominee is put forward in the next year. That would be the only reason to go and testify in front of the Senate Republicans, was to be able to get on camera a series of quotes that could be used in ads. So that's my take on it. Oh yes, all right. So I'm already so tired, you guys. I think it's just going to be a 1 hour show. I still have to record. I still have to do voice work after this, so it might be a short one. And I have a patron hangout. So yeah, let's go short. You guys, if this isn't enough, if you're used to a 2 hour show and this one isn't enough, Tom McDonald is going to be coming on to, he's going to be arriving. He's one of my patrons, and we have a show planned today where we're going to look at the PragerU video on evolution. And he sent me like 3 different other videos as a reference. I don't have time to watch them. I'm relying on his smarts. So you can always come back in like 5 hours time to this channel. It should be a preview of it already, but I don't know. YouTube is kind of dumb sometimes. And we're going to be doing a PragerU video then, so I think I might do that, because I'm getting really tired. Okay. Now let's look at, yes, this bombshell information, which was dropped during the last day of the hearing. And what it shows is that the corruption of the Russians into the GOP is deep and is wide and has been going on for months. They're just traitors? I mean, it might not be treason in the legal definition of it, but it's treasonous in its heart and its intention. It's siding with foreign countries and over other Americans in order to make a political statement. Like, it's one thing if you're like, okay, I'm going to advocate for this group against U.S. policy because I think it's unfair to the Palestinians, or I think it's unfair to the Kurds, or I think it's unfair to the way that we deal with this indigenous population in this, in country X. That's one thing. It's another thing to like go to a corrupt prosecutor and ask them to undermine an American political opponent. So, again, from the Washington Post, a high-ranking Democrat said Saturday it is quite likely that Representative Devin Nunes will face an ethics investigation over allegations that he met with an Ukrainian official to obtain information about former Vice President Joe Biden and his son. Representative Adam Smith, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, appeared on MSNBC, where he was asked whether Nunes could face a House inquiry. Quite likely, without question, Smith said. The allegation that Nunes, a top Republican on the House Intelligence Committee, met with a former Ukrainian prosecutor last year to discuss the Bidens came from the attorney of Lev Parnas, one of the two Soviet-born associates of Rudy Giuliani, who were indicted on charges they broke campaign finance laws. Parnas' attorney, Joseph Bondi, told the Washington Post that Ukraine's former top prosecutor Viktor Shokin informed Parnas that he had met with Nunes in Vienna in December of 2018. Bondi also said that a top aide to Nunes, Derek Harvey, sometimes joined a group that met frequently in the spring of 2019 at the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. to discuss the Biden matter, among other topics. The group, according to Bondi, was convened by Giuliani, Trump's personal attorney, and included Parnas, his business associate Igor Fruman, as well as journalist John Solomon, and the husband-wife legal team of Joe Geneva, and Victoria Tunsing. I don't know. I might went to more like a German pronunciation. Nunes declined to comment. He did, however, push back strongly on the story to the conservative outlet Breitbart, and threatened to sue CNN for reporting it. Yeah, go. Moo, bish. Moo. He also threatened to sue the Daily Beast for linking him and Parnas. Yeah, try it. Try it. Just try it. So we're going to go, there's an ethics committee. I mean, if there's travel there in Vienna in the right time period, that obviously could be public knowledge, but I'm quite happy for there to be an investigation because we know that Nunes had links to Ukraine through Kash Patel, which was his staff person, and he was misrepresenting to the president that was an expert. He was an expert on Ukraine. You can't really see it. But anyway, here's the House Ethics complaint as transmitted to the Office of Congressional Ethics. It's too small, sadly, to see on here, but it's a very well-written piece, I have to say. I did have a look at it when I could see it on my phone and blow it up, and it was very well-written. So, and that's kind of, honestly, guys, me whining for 20 minutes. And then me whining about Nunes and whining about Republicans. Welcome to Weekend Winters. So that was pretty much what I had. The idea now would be to do PragerU. But I'm exhausted. So I think instead, why don't I give you guys a little time? You can put questions in the chat or other things in the chat to have me reply to. Otherwise, what I would say is you can come back for the patron hangout. I will probably have had a nap by then, and hopefully will be slightly more energetic. But I'm gonna go. I haven't had too much coffee. I'm gonna warm it up here a little bit. And although I do this, you guys can't see your chat. So no, that's not the one I want either. No, that's not the one I want. Where is my screen? Where'd it go? That's the one. Okay, now we're back. So you guys can see yourselves in the chat. I will minimize that window in case I need to do something. And otherwise, how about this? I will disappear for a bit. I'll go warm up my coffee. I'll put the music back on. Ooh, I can't do both. I can't. Well, no, I could. I could add the music. Audio input. No. Browser image. Media source. And the media source would be music. Thank you. Thank you, Mithril. You're so... oh, I put it on the wrong one. Damn it. All right, I'm just going to do the pre-show. Because I suck. Oh, I suck so bad, you guys. I'm so useless and pointless. All right, so get a coffee. Yes, I'll come back and answer questions because I appreciate you guys showing up here. And I do want to not just blow you off. So I will do that. And you write your questions. If you don't have any, I'll just come back and feel unloved. That's also a possibility. You can just do that as well. Am I making you feel guilty enough? I'm just also, while I'm talking to you guys, I'm doing stuff on the camera. Okay, Christmas music for 2 minutes, and I will answer any questions you have. Otherwise, we will see each other maybe at that Patreon hangout. So, yeah, enjoy. Oh, I have to turn the music on, don't I? Oh, wrong one. That was kind of an abrupt shift. Sorry, everyone. Well, I'm back with my coffee. Sorry to waste everyone's time. No one had questions. I just want to make sure I got the right one. Live chat, top chat. No questions for this week. Thank you guys for stopping by. If anyone else is still watching. 'Cause 23 people just watched me go warm up my coffee. Cool. But nobody has any questions. So yeah, that's about it. Before I wrap up then, I don't want to make it completely a waste of your time to have made an effort to stick around. So, uh, my travel situation is complicated. Kevin and I have planned to do, I think, at least one more happy hour before I go to do my field research. And this is going to be the last Weekend Winters for a while. It will return. Let me look at my calendar. It will return after the week after the British election. When would that be? Let me look it up on my calendar. Outlook, dates. So we're going to have to take a break because I just don't have a reliable Wi-Fi. And so we're going to take a break with the show. The 30th, the 7th, the 14th, the 21st. Weekend Winters will be back on the 21st of December. And also because I think I mentioned this before, living abroad, people occasionally will offer, I mean, my friends every year, someone will say, oh, you should come to stay with me and my family for Christmas. And it's like, I like you as a friend, but it's so stressful to travel to where I don't know people. And yeah, I have to do post-election stuff, Mithril. I have to collect a field research of people's post-election reactions until the 18th of December. So that I will be not flying back to Cologne until then. So it would be more like the 21st. That's okay. You don't have to know my schedule. You didn't know it was pre-post. You just thought it would have been pre and the weekend after, but we do post-election data collection as well. And so I will probably be doing like a Christmas Eve stream, or a Christmas Day stream, or a Boxing Day stream, or all three, I don't know. Because honestly, I like to be alone on Christmas. Is that terrible? Like, I don't want to deal with the traffic, and I don't want to deal with the Hauptbahnhof and the trains when everyone's got their suitcases and their presents and everything else and they're traveling. What I want to do is go to the shops and get all of the really good Christmas food that they make for guests. You know, like they get little packets of cool things that you can get your guests or whatever. And I like to get all those, but for me. And then I'll just take like 3 days of it being quiet, there not being any traffic, the buses don't run as often, the shops are closed, and maybe people are out wandering about. But other than that, like the whole city just kind of exhales for a couple days and it's quiet and relaxed. And there's fun stuff, you know, to watch on TV, but so that's what I'm planning on doing for Christmas. And I could see myself very much just jumping online for atheists or non-believers, people who also don't have anything to do in this typical downtime. And we can just kind of connect and have our own little entertainment in terms of what's going on in the world. So that is my current thinking. And I don't know how else. Maybe I'll put out an announcement or something on. I'm not really good at using the YouTube messaging system. That will be returning on the 21st of December, and hence the Christmas music. So it's set up for next time. Okay. Oh my gosh, Mithril, don't put that in the. Sorry, don't put that in the screen. I'm gonna hide this now. Delete that from the chat. Like, thank you, but you shouldn't have put your phone number someplace like that. I'm going to try to protect your identity by not broadcasting that once I saw it. Now remove it. Send it to me in a DM. And then we'll sort it out. Okay. So with that data protection effort, I do see here one question, though, that I was been ignoring. So while I appreciate the allegations surrounding Trump are worse, do I think this is more of a threat to the U.S. democratic process? Absolutely. Insofar as we've seen the Republicans who are willing to take Russian talking points over the talking points of American experts in the intelligence services and the people who are paid to have America's national security interest foremost in their minds, and instead prefer Russian propaganda. That to me is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. If you are more loyal to a man than the Constitution, and you're willing to say, when my guy does it, it's not a crime, but when your guy or woman does it, then we have to bring down their presidency, then it's you're no longer playing by the same set of rules. And then people start or people lose faith in the institutions. And when you lose faith in the institutions, you stop using them as a process to solve political disagreements. And as Kennedy said, when you take away people's peaceful means for change, they will turn to other means. And it's, I do think that it is more of a threat to the Constitution than we've seen. Right. The Senate, it would be pretty, we'll have to see. I guess I don't know that I'm convinced that they will convict. I don't think that district attorneys, if you think you've got a good case for murder, if you think the evidence is out there, I don't see how a prosecutor could not proceed with a case with sufficient evidence to convict, because the jury might not do its job. You have to put the evidence out there and let the chips fall where they may, and then see what happens. But do I currently predict a conviction? No. However, this is before the ad campaigns. And I think that there will be a lot of ad campaigns. And it won't be about so much targeting. I mean, I mentioned areas where Republicans were weak. And I also mentioned that public opinion is quite locked in. But if you can get independent voters through advertising, campaign ads, and other communications to say what the president did was wrong and he needs to be held accountable. We're never going to get Trumpers. We're going to get never Trumpers. We've already got them. And then there are some independent voters. And if enough independents can be convinced through education with campaign ads, countering Fox News and countering Republican propaganda, then that would put a lot of pressure on other senators. So we are going to have to see. I think public opinion is going to drive the Senate. And if Mitch McConnell thinks that protecting the president from conviction and not replacing him with Mike Pence is going to keep him in the majority, that's what he'll do. If Mitch McConnell thinks that throwing Donald Trump overboard and having Mike Pence run gives him a better chance of keeping the Senate, then that's what he'll do. So the issue is, how can we put enough political pressure on Mitch McConnell to make it politically painful for him to resist conviction? So, all right. Well, thank you for those questions, by the way. Yeah, and Mithril, thank you for deleting your answer. I just wanted to make sure that you didn't get, a bunch of crap in your texts or anything like that. Given the fact that the BBC edited Boris Johnson's stuttering debate, do you think that there's bias? So I have seen that covered. And I have to also say, when I left the UK in 2009, the BBC was still a reputable organization. And then I saw a lot of Scottish independent voters, pro-independence, getting very, very upset with the BBC. And I heard from a lot of very passionate yes voters that they just given up their TV license because they wouldn't fund the BBC anymore. Now, I'm not there to see it, so it's hard for me to judge the tone of the BBC, but clearly this is something that now, it's not just the Johnson tape, is it? It's not just the fact that they've edited one thing for Boris Johnson. It's also, I think they've done a couple things to help him out. And it was also very much like in the United States where, Republicans were targeting public PBS, the Public Broadcasting Service, and complaining, that it was educating people too much. And I know that there's been a sustained effort by conservatives to redirect the focus of the BBC, shall we say. And that's incredibly unfortunate. I know that Republicans a lot of times find facts threatening because ideologues aren't interested in being accurate about reality. They're interested in promoting an agenda. And so, as a consequence, straight up news reports look like bias to them. Things that just treat a situation factually that looks bad for them, they think is bias. So I'm not qualified enough I don't do political media. I don't do political communications, and my specialty is not the BBC. But I have been concerned about examples of BBC bias that I have seen, especially when it comes to, platforming conservatives more so than people on the left. Hey, 250. Yeah, it's okay that you overslept. Don't worry. We're actually just wrapping up, so you can go back and watch. Much of the show is me complaining anyway, and Christmas music. So, sorry. I was just doing some last minute questions before wrapping up. I have a little bit of voice work to do to record today, and then get ready for my show tonight with my patrons. The ABC in Australia has also been feeling the pressure from conservative governments and have been trying to appease them. Yeah, it's again, conservatives understand that an educated populace, one that's literate on its rights and its responsibilities as citizens, is one that will challenge them and give them grief. Have I seen RTG as another new alt Twitter account? No, lucky wanderer. Carl's Rape Tweet Guy's got another new alternative Twitter account. Oh, do tell. I think I was supposed to wrap this up 5 minutes ago, but we're all intrigued now, so I'll wait for a little bit to see if you can tell me that. I'll shout this out since I'm babbling. The show stopped being good a while ago. And now you're just here listening to me in the background, hopefully doing something more productive. I watched this video that was out last night, or else in the last couple days. Let me go to my history here. History. Here's where you guys get to watch what I've... Yeah, alright, so that's what I fell asleep to last night. This one. Oh yeah, I got Hunt for Red October in German on YouTube because it was less than €4, which I thought was a really, really good deal. We don't want to play this, but I do want to go to the channel. Yeah. I can recommend this video. It's so good. It's really, 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 really good. This is it Gutian? Gutischen? I don't know. Gushin? I don't know. But whoever this is, you can Google, you can search inside of YouTube, Sargon of Akkad Still Can't Read. It is a very long video. It's a super long video. It is, that's a bit loud. It's over an hour. So settle in, but so worth it. Such a good breakdown. I learned so many interesting things about the Epic of Gilgamesh. I mean, Carl's put out false information once again and just demonstrates that he talks out of his butt instead of actually reading and thinking. But fundamentally, and he has no respect for women. He thinks women at their core are evil. He might like individual women, but he is such a misogynist. He is such an obvious woman-hating misogynist, and it's how he interprets every woman character in the Epic of Gilgamesh that demonstrates. It says more about his hatred of women as a collective than anything else. It doesn't say anything about the text. It's just a Rorschach test this way, really, the Epic of Gilgamesh, for Carl's own toxic views and insecurities and fears of his own impotence. But intellectual impotence, obviously. That's why he has to stay in the safe space of people who don't know what he's talking about, so that he can appear to be smarter than he really is, because they can't call him out on how uneducated he is. But I would, if you are looking for something to do after my show, go watch this video. And don't only watch it, share it, make a comment on it if you enjoy it. That will definitely help it get some lift. And I haven't seen a really good breakdown of Sargon like this for a while, so it's super in depth and really well done. Okay, so I think that will be my last shout out. I'll check chat one more time. See Tom. Yeah. So later on tonight, in about 5 hours from now, it's 1 o'clock and we're starting at 6. Tom will break down Prager's evolution video. Yes, impotence in Minecraft. Yeah, in Minecraft. Perfect. Thank you, Bye Pagan Man. That made me laugh. All right, well, thank you for that. I added you a thread with his new account. Thank you very much. I have to power hose the patio. All right, well, you go. Take out, and you get that clean and shiny. And actually, I'll use this opportunity to say goodbye as well. So, yes, guys, sorry I was low energy today. And thank you for putting up with it. And I hope that Tom will have far more energy and experience and knowledge than me in the patron show, so I can just free ride on his stuff instead. Free ride on his energy. So again, there will probably be a happy hour again this week, probably Wednesday night, because that's the last time to do it, and I've got a birthday party on Monday night I have to go to. And what do I think will happen to US-UK relations if Corbyn wins next month? I think Trump will just bash him the same way he bashes anyone who's not Boris Johnson. So, you know, Trump's a jerk. Just assume that whatever the worst thing, the least gracious, the least political thing could be done, that's what he'll do. All right, yeah, you guys take care as well. Thank you for joining me this Sunday morning for a little bit of holiday spirit before the holidays. All that's left to be said is that I've been Christy. People in the chat, you guys are awesome. And people watching in the future who joined in late, thank you for spending time with me, listening to me babble. Upvote the stream, yay. And see you guys in a couple hours on the Patreon Hangout. Okay, I've been Christy. You've been awesome. See you next time. Bye. No, the window is in a different spot now. I have to enter my stream 4 times. Okay, bye.